Everybody fails at some point in their lives. That's a fact. I mean, I don't know anybody who hasn't failed at something at some point in their lives. But what really matters is how you respond to that failure. Do you let failure stop you and define who you are? Or do you use it to learn, adjust and grow? After watching this video, you'll never look at failure the same way again. I have failed many times in relationships and in business, and I've always learned something valuable. But there's one failure that stands out though that I will probably never forget. Not because I lost all my money, but because of what it did to my confidence. I had somehow built my whole identity around being an entrepreneur and around the business, and when it failed, I became a total failure in my own eyes. So here's what happened. In 2007, I launched a small business serving a local boatyard. They imported sailboats and my company installed accessories and did assembly work when the new boats arrived from factory. And things went really well. Then the 2009 financial crisis hit and sailboat sales stopped almost completely, and so did my work. Instead of pivoting immediately, I started panicking and obviously burned myself out. Everything went downhill really fast. I started missing bill deadlines and couldn't focus enough to fix any problems. And within 6 months, the business went bankrupt. Now, suddenly, I owed over 20 grand in taxes, lost my credit rating and got really depressed. So that's when it happened. And after that, for nearly a year, I saw myself as a total failure and not just someone who had experienced a failure. And this mindset was way more damaging than the bankruptcy itself. So the thing that I learned from this experience is that there's a crucial difference between experiencing a failure and being a failure. And that's a distinction that completely transformed how I approach challenges today. And the main lesson from that is that do not build your whole identity around your business or anything. Instead, try to build your identity around being someone who tries, fails, learns, and always keeps moving forward. You many times see this with professional athletes too. They build their entire identity around training, competing, which is really intensive, and when that suddenly stops, they're completely lost. Everything you want to become good at requires failing. When I was younger, I was a skateboarder, and I think skateboarding is one of the best examples of this get up and try again mentality. I mean, even the first trick you need to learn, the ollie, takes like hundreds of attempts before motor skills develop and you start to get the board off the ground. And when you're doing it, you have to really want to learn the ollie to get there. And then this one skill unlocks all the other tricks that are equally hard, and so on. The same applies to becoming a successful entrepreneur or anything in life. You can't let the failures along the way stop you from getting what you want. You try until you land the ollie, which then moves you to the next level of yourself. The story of KFC is a great example of this get up and try again mentality. Mr. Sanders was, I think, 62 years old when his restaurant failed and he lost everything. After that, he had to live and sleep in his car for years. But he strongly believed in his chicken recipe, so he started driving around trying to sell it to restaurants. And people, of course, called him crazy and hated on him. But he had a vision. And apparently he got rejected over 1,000 times before a restaurant owner called Pete Harmon finally said yes. And after that, he started to have success. And by the age of 66, he had over 600 locations selling his chicken recipe. And because he never quit, despite all the rejections, he eventually built KFC into a global empire worth billions. Same with Thomas Edison, the guy who invented the light bulb. He failed a lot. In fact, also over 1,000 times before he got the light bulb finally working. And after that, he invented a lot of things through trying and failing, and eventually held hundreds of US patents, including the motion picture camera. So, same story here. He used his failures as a learning method and got huge success because of this mentality. So the main message here with these success stories is that you must not quit even if you fail hundreds of times. So how can you actually change your relationship with failure? First, you have to reframe failure as data, not judgment. When I failed in my business, I eventually realized that it wasn't a verdict on my worth as a person, and it was more like information about what didn't work in that specific situation with the knowledge I had at that point. So don't be so hard on yourself. Second, you are on your own journey. Don't compare yourself to others around you. You might be 50 and still beginning from scratch after a series of failures, while everybody else around you are successful and have everything they want. Comparing yourself to others at this point can be depressing and very unproductive. Third, stop letting other people's opinions control your decisions. I mean, most people who judge your failures aren't probably even trying themselves. They're just sitting safely on the couch and wasting time while you're out there grinding your ass off. And think about how happy those haters would be if you would quit trying and be one of them. In fact, you can use this as fuel and make sure you do not let them be happy about you quitting. And look, I learned this the hard way, because after my second business collapsed, I had to spend a couple of years running from the taxman because I owed some money to them. So I took a safe 9-to-5 job and just stopped putting myself out there. I mean, it was safe, but I wasn't growing. I was only losing time, actually. And that's when I really realized that you can't let the fear of failure stop you from getting what you want in life. I mean, if you're not failing, you're playing it too safe. You're not even trying. And this applies to everything in life, like getting a new girlfriend or getting a new, better job or starting a business. One thing I also realized, that the moment you become really comfortable with failure is when you really increase your chances of success. Because when failure loses its power to stop you, you become unstoppable. So here's my challenge to you. Launch a big project or approach someone you like, knowing it might fail, and be ready for the lessons that will come. So, the next time, if you fail, get the fuck up, analyze what went wrong, and learn from it, and then try again. Because ultimately, the master of failure becomes the master of success. 6 o'clock. I have a 7 o'clock, I have sauna. You motherfuckers don't even know what the fuck is a sauna.